Hola, hola, hola a todas y todos. Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Bienvenidos a mi canal. Cristian Landaeta por acá, con un señor de la música with a really very dear character of rock music from England, from the so-called Canterbury scene that we used to play a lot on Futuro FM in Santiago, Chile back in the first half of the 90s, especially fantastic tracks as 9 Feet Underground, obviously Heather, which I just found out that was inspired by a very nice lady that just said hello today. So welcome, Mr. Richard Sinclair, at long last. Welcome. It's a pleasure. An honor.
Very nice to speak to you, Ola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Nice to have a sunny day, eh?
Yeah, it's
what
lucky.
a nice day too. Yeah, good spirit happening here.
Well, as you may imagine, Richard, having been, a fan for a long time, and let me tell you that you have many fans as well here in Chile, and I'm sure in Latin America.
Very nice, very kind. I'm happy to hear that. How nice. I'm looking forward to getting to Chile in some way. I think I'm going to try and do it at my own expenses and come and meet everybody.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Hello.
Fingers crossed.
No, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
And you know what? It's almost miraculous, but because your records were never, I mean, Caravan or any bands like that were never released here in Chile. So the only access to this music was by means of people traveling to Europe or the States and bringing the records.
I think it's the same for many countries around the world.
Yeah.
When you don't this media system, media, the actual goes out, especially if certain record companies are putting into certain type of music and things like that, which tended to be a bit more simplistic than our music. I mean, my roots. I mean, when I was 12, 14, I was living in Canterbury. I was born in Canterbury, so were my family all the way back to my grandfather, and we used to listen to the radio, popular music. Okay, because my father was a singer in Canterbury, quite well known, and.
So I was reading about that.
We listened to all the popular standards of the time, which is what's happening now. Everybody's going to say, "Hey, where's the music gone?
Yeah,
where's the stuff that we want to sing? Come on, media system, what's up with them?"
Yeah,
God.
Yes. Well, I was reading something that may make you laugh. I was reading that a vehicle equipped for living in, typically towed by a car and used for holidays, is what they call a caravan. So I've been wondering,
or a line of camels.
Exactly. So I've been wondering why the name. Well, I have so many question marks with me today. Now, Richard Sinclair, son and grandson of musicians and photographers, I read, and a cousin to Dave Sinclair, no less. How did you get involved in music, Richard? I know your parents family were musicians. Maybe, yeah. Parents and grandparents.
Okay, I'll tell you the story. Yes, the family has always been entertainers in Canterbury. They've always been photographers. The Canterbury is the Church of England. Okay, it's the head of the Church of England. That's why we all sound like we do. Like when we speak the Queen's English, when we speak the Queen's English, we're all sort of like singing to each other, basically.
I've been looking at some pictures and I've been really amazed. The landscapes are breathtaking, Richard. We have a nice landscape here in Chile, but if this is Canterbury.
I was born in 1948, so I've seen sort of a good, I saw quite a few decades there and things. And early days, it was very beautiful. Yeah, here we go. It's nice things.
Okay.
I don't know what you got.
Chile. No, that's your land. That's your land. Yeah. Really lovely landscape.
Very blue. Usually around Canterbury was grey and pink in the sky. Okay.
That's why, huh? Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, the land of grey and pink, really. That's very nice. And you could have been something like a carpenter, a doctor. Why? What took you to the music side? Did your family encourage you?
I was born singing. Apparently, I sounded like a cat that was being strangled. Like that. No, my father was an entertainer, a good musician. He played bass, drums, guitars, and stringed instruments, and lots of toys. like singing saws, and he entertained. He was the known entertainer in Canterbury, and so was my grandfather as well. And so the later magazine orientated thing that's brought us all together, really, it's quite funny. It's described by Robert as being, well, we're not really from Canterbury, we're all tourists. Right?
Oh wow.
No, friend, this is Robert Wyatt from the Soft Machine, okay, which I met them all early at the age of 15, when my father used to do lots of concerts around Canterbury, and Hugh Hopper, who became the Soft Machine bass player in the end, was starting a band in Canterbury. I think he's 2 years old when he was 17 years old, and his brother was probably 18 or 19. And at the Hopper family's house, of course, the Hopper family used to come and see my father play. Okay, because they used to be coming, and so they're you know, because they love music and things. Of course, that's how the boys got started. You know, the Hopper family, and it comes from your parents. You know, really, if you're really organized straight into the world of entertainment, okay, or music, because it's what your parents are doing already, and so you know, it's quite a challenge to do anything else than that. But also, my father was the antique restorer, you know, of the furniture for the Archbishop clergy there, the Archbishop of Canterbury. So he was very, I mean, the family line, hate to have to sort of like boast about it, but it was like quite happening in Canterbury. You know, my father was one of the amazing woodworkers, you know, at the time, had touch, and also a very good entertainer. And so really my sort of like start into the Canterbury scene was the real Canterbury scene itself, where there was a lot of really good musicians playing there and things like that don't really get reported about on the rock and roll media system, which sort of started off with really the Soft Machine, where the actual Canterbury scene was actually reported about. First of all, there was a man called L. Clark who came down from a London magazine, and this new music that we were all apparently playing, which was like our own form of psychedelic or whimsical or whatever you want to call it, you know, music, the bands all formed from Wilde Flowers, okay? Soft Machine Caravan came from a band called Wilde Flowers, and they were all in it at some time. But all around us in Canterbury then, before that actually happened, and I joined the Hopper brothers because the parents have spoken to my father when he was singing in a hotel and said, "Oh, our sons are forming a band. You know, they want to make a band." And so my dad had just bought me a Hofner very thin guitar, which is like very nice, double cutaway, coloured red with Bigsby unit on it, for anybody who knows about guitars. And so I arrived at the Hopper brothers with my father's Selma True Voice PA amp with 3 knobs on it, and my new guitar, and plugged in, and we played some. We started off by playing Chuck Berry tunes and bits and pieces like that. Okay, and then eventually Robert Wyatt, who formed Soft Machine with Kevin Ayres. Kevin Ayres appeared too, about sort of a year after I'd been messing about with the Hopper boys, and it became the Wilde Flowers. Okay, and when it started, it was playing bits and pieces, really, because the grammar school boys, which are really all Canterbury, you know, people apart from me. My father was at grammar school. You know, Dave Sinclair's father was grammar school. Simon Langton, it's called. I went to the Archbishop School of Canterbury, secondary modern, and my headmaster was Mike Ratledge's father, Mr. Ratledge. So Mike Ratledge was the keyboard player of Soft Machine. Okay, so it's all very family orientated between Hugh Hopper, Mike Ratledge, and myself, and my cousin Dave Sinclair. Okay, it's a Canterbury. Well, he's just outside Canterbury. He was born, I think, I don't know, maybe Blean, I think, just outside Canterbury. But the people that are actually born in Canterbury, it's strange. We seem to hang on to the sort of thing, well, you know, that's the real Canterbury. The rest, as Robert Wyatt would say, are all tourists.
Now, what are some bands that you wouldn't leave out of the Canterbury Sound family tree because there are so many. Like it's.
Oh, oh no! Listen. I'd leave them all out.
Wow. Why is that?
No, because they're all tourists. No, they're all wonderful. Isn't it wonderful how Canterbury's been chosen as a starting and marking point of what David Allen called the source. He called it the source, like David Allen from Gong. It's very good, but it's like it's brought us all into like making it one family, which is very nice because, I mean, for me, I had imagined obviously I was born in a really good situation where there's someone making music that was very well known. You know, I mean, my father even sung in front of royalty and things like that, but it's a different sort of media system happening then for music. You know? As it developed with the record companies, you know, the record companies decided what was going to work and they paid money for it. I mean, luckily, Caravan in the early days when we formed the band was Pi really had the business experience. You know, Pi Hastings.
Okay. Yes.
You know,
yes.
His family orientation to sort of being in charge of things was really quite good.
I in fact, Richard, I have a question about that because how did making deals with different record companies, because you began on the Verve, I guess, which was jazz oriented, then you went to Durham, and then you went on. How did that affect the music orientation? I mean, they really have an influence on the band?
Oh yes, because that's how they paid for it, right? They actually paid us to be there. We couldn't earn that sort of money and be exposed to that many people unless you were at the record company. Now the situation is very difficult because this media system that we have, I mean, this system that we have, electronic system, you know, is puts you in touch with everybody, doesn't it? Without a problem at all. There they all are. You know, it's wonderful. And but in those early days, no, right the way up through till about even the 80s, bands weren't curating their own. They were relying on record companies to finance everything and all the rest of it. And so it goes on. Even now, today, I mean, but it's... you were asking about the... you know, the run of businesses that we went through. It was really because, like, when we started out, Pi went into London, and he tried many record companies with the tapes, and they were all very interested. One, you know, and there's many stories about that. It's quite funny, really. I mean, you'll find some of them in the latest box set that Caravan released on Snapper Music, which I think is all sold out now.
Good. Good.
I mean, I still have 5 copies of this. I'm going to add a bit more to the story in the ones that I give to people.
Did that come out on Burning Shed?
No, Burning Shed's to do with Hatfield in the North, and I've just been in touch with Dave Stewart. Just gave me a ring because Hatfield, the second band that I moved from, I moved from Caravan. Okay, just to fill you in about the record companies. MGM was chosen by a guy called Ian Ruffini because we met someone that was writing a magazine. His name was Miles, and it was called it was the Lumber magazine. IT, it was called IT, and it was the most alternative job lot. You know, all the news about what was happening in the arts and everything, and they picked up on Caravan, and really because of Pi's sister Jane, who was the main model in Mayfair, London, and she'd married a guy that was like one of the most wealthy people in America, and so she was the one that helped support Soft Machine when they started, you know, with money for somewhere to rehearse. So I got to see the Soft Machine because it was all a big family, all happening at the same time. The Wilde Flowers, lots of people went through that, but they were all really good friends and girlfriends. And
I hear that they sometimes lent you their instruments when they were away and not touring. Is that true?
Well, when Soft Machine just kicked off before us, and they made a really great start with a really good album. And then they were invited, and then obviously because Pi had asked me to come, I did 4 years at college, and it came to a point where I was sort of, I've always been playing music at home, and it said, come and join him, you know, him and Dave, my cousin Dave Sinclair, and Richard Coughlin. I'm forming a band, and I said, jolly good, yeah, we'll come and form. Then I was playing guitar, okay.
Yeah,
David was playing bass, Richard drums, and Pi. In fact, it was before, okay, it's just before Richard and I all came together.
But officially, you
And,
play the guitar, the bass, and sing. I know the 3 roles in your story.
I always played guitar, but never really went for the rock end of it, because I was always, my father was a bass player, so it was very easy for me to just, for me playing bass, I'm not really a bass player. I'm a guitar player, and I play it like playing guitar. Okay,
Yeah,
I really play all night as if I'm playing a piano badly. Okay.
So, Richard, what are some memories of you working with Robert Wyatt and Nick Mason? I think he produced Rock Bottom, didn't he?
They came later. Yeah, I first met Robert obviously when he arrived at Tanglewood, which is Hopper Home in Canterbury, to form a band. But obviously, from then we've always been family friends in many ways. Okay, because Canterbury was like a really big family of people, and as they came through, they all became like a music family, like musicians do. They like each other, love each other. They play music with each other. They don't choose to play with the same people all the time. It's very nice, big family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then Robert, of course, did well with the Soft Machine. And when they went away, the Soft Machine Caravan was starting then. The first 6 months we were all living together. And the Soft Machine left us all their Marshall equipment, which was very nice to play.
Sure.
Also, it was just at the time, I mean, many meetings with the Soft Machine musicians that were happening then, because it changed quite a lot. I mean, David, it started off with David Allen and Kevin and Robert and Mike, I think. And once they played in, it's really Dave Allen's band, I think. And once they played in in France on the coast, on by the sea, they did a big concert. And then when something happened, Dave wasn't allowed. Dave Allen wasn't allowed back into the country, and so Soft Machine started off. He stayed in Paris, or looked in below Paris in the countryside,
mm-hmm.
and organised his own, bits and pieces then. Which you heard about from Tim Blake. In fact, I was listening to the beginning of your studio when Tim had actually met David, and then went recording with him. We went recording Hatfield in the North just after Gong, and like that's when doing the sound, had joined the band.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine how you could have met Tim Blake. When you said say hello to him, I did. And he would say, hey, of course, yeah, say hello to Richard too.
No, we're family. Hey, Gong is the family of Canterbury.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and even though people say, oh, it's nothing to do with Canterbury, for sure it is, because the grandfather of Gong, of course, is David Allen.
Yeah.
And he came through into Kent, southeast England, southeast Kent. And he visited, Robert's mother and Robert. He was 10 years older than Robert, and he arrived when Robert was 14 in Lyddon, which is just outside of Canterbury, okay? Mm-hmm. Because his parents had moved down, his mother had moved down into Kent. And so there's all these early meetings that became the Canterbury scene, okay? It's really quite very family orientated, if you really read the real, feel of how the history started. And so there were many people about them playing music outside of what was the real Canterbury scene, which was nothing to do with it. They were all playing cover versions of the Beatles and the Mersey Beat, and lots of stuff was happening then in Canterbury.
Now please go ahead.
Yeah, so all this thing developed in Canterbury. Everybody says, well, it all sounds, they don't relate, and they do, da-da-da, diddly-dee. For me, it's like the Church of England, okay?
Yeah.
Well, no, it is, because I still, I mean, for me, it's, I'm a choir boy, okay?
You were a choir boy, yeah. Yeah.
Not for all, I mean, I'm still a choir boy now. People say, why ever did you sing in Wilde Flowers like that? When you got Kevin Ayres or someone else that's singing American tune, because I never see grammar people. They got into jazz and the American and the worldly music and things. That was, you know, that's what they were. That was what they were trained for, right? Grammar school people, to be leaders of other people's.
For the people who don't know, like you are the main voice on Hatfield, but in Caravan, I don't know who, because Pip would sing as well.
Oh no! You're thinking about Pi sang, and the funny, Pi is obviously a very characteristic voice. He's to get now he's the main voice, okay.
Yeah,
but
right.
where up until I left in 72, no 71 in fact. I left after Waterloo Lily, and it's like yes, everybody wasn't a boss in the band. Everybody was equal. Pi wrote tunes, he led that tunes. If I wrote tunes, I led that. David Sinclair wasn't singing at the time, and so I sang David's songs and things. David, in fact, has started singing now, and he writes lots of very nice pop tunes. He's just brought out an album called Hook, Line and Sinclair. Which is quite funny. And he writes ballads. He's a ballad writer, a pop songwriter, okay? And he lives in Japan. He doesn't relate his sounds too much back into the psychedelic and rock and roll. He's more in the 80s area of really nice songs sung, you know, by quite strong singers. And he's also singing all the tunes himself now.
Right. Now, how and when did you join Camel, and when did you leave the band? Because you were on Breathless and the live record only, I guess, the recordings.
I left Hatfield in the North.
Yeah.
The only playing I did before being, I was actually invited to join Camel because they wanted a bass player that could play a bit more elaborately than their original bass player, Doug Ferguson. And they also wanted a singer because they hadn't chosen, they weren't happy with their singing voices. They wanted a singer. And so Andy Ward, that was a fan of Caravan and me as well, he had they had a road manager then that came from Canterbury. It's amazing, called Laurie Small. I've just written him an email today, actually, for many years, because he was the road manager of Camel, and he came from Canterbury. And he phoned up and said, you know, like that they really want you to come down and try out and see if, you know, they wanted to try me out, see if I could do the work on the album and things like that. So and then we went down into the countryside. I had a girlfriend then, and we went down into the countryside. It was very nice, and I enjoyed to play the music because it was very easy to play. It's just that the only thing was it had a very set feel about it.
Okay.
You know, that's very different from me, from Hatfield in the North, where you could be expressive and take part in the writing, where in fact all the writing then was done by Peter Bardens and Andy Latimer. And I think their writing together was very special, especially from when I wasn't in the band, because I'd never listened to Camel. And when I got to hear Camel then, I realized what a really big part, you know, it's a real major part that Pete Bardens was of the band, and that melodic time, fantastic. And I'd never really listened to Camel, but I'd heard Pete play and didn't know him then, but Van Morrison had a band called Them. Okay, remember Them? And on that album, on that early album, it's Pete that's playing organ on that, you know, when they're going Gloria, Gloria, you know, that one. That was a hit single over here. And so really Pete was the only, Peter Bardens was really the only real rock and roll star that I ever became, you know, acquainted with or played with. Okay, I mean, there's many, aren't there? You know, his friends were like Fleetwood Mac and you know, the Animals with Eric Burdon and Van Morrison. I mean, they all came to his wedding and all that. So for me, I've always been I'm not really, I'm nowhere being a rock star at all. It's impossible for me to be a rock star. I just don't do that. I've lived with a lot of people, and also I live with Robert Plant's Minder. Okay, Minder and thing. I was there, and so we got all the stories about Robert, and, and all the stories about Led Zeppelin. So I met them a few times, and in the early days, but I was actually living with his mind. And his name was Benj Lefevre. He was the road manager for Soft Machine, and then Jeff Beck, and then I think he did some Simply Red and someone else, and Dudley Darn. Eventually he ended up as Robert Plant's minder and the main sound engineer, the manager of the sound. Okay. He's a very interesting person, and Benj was friends with Pip Pyle and Phil Miller. They were all more or less born together in the same thing from Hatfield in the north. The drummer and the guitarist Phil Miller and thing. They were amazing friends. It was a very strong unit to be invited into. I left Caravan because I got Phil Miller's brother. Steve Miller to play keyboards. I mean, it's actually it's part of Pi's history of the Caravan, because he's carried on doing Caravan. My history with Caravan is really only up to 71 for 4 years, and then I've always rejoined the band because so many people like the music of Landau and Pink. The three tunes I wrote. Yeah. I wrote Golf Girl and Winter Wine and Landau and Pink, and my cousin wrote on the back. On the B side of the LP, 9 Foot Underground, which, I mean, because of the color of the cover and the thing, it became rather iconic. It's a shame we signed all the royalties away. But then in those days, when you were 19, you just they gave you the chance to be in the music business, and you signed your whole monetary earning possibilities away to them.
I think, Richard, there's been a recent Record Day Store edition repressing of Pink on Pink vinyl. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh no! Listen. This has been the third most continuous selling album after Moody Blues and I think one of the other songs. Continuously, always in the shops rather than the big time like Michael Jackson or Paul McCartney and that. But it's the third most continuous selling album. This was back about 25 years ago. It's always in the shops. It's always selling, and whatever, it's on Universal now. Yeah. And they brought it out with me, just my voice. They found done the tape. It's just unbelievable what they've done.
But did you write small parts and then you put them together? How did you achieve the extended piece?
No, David did that totally himself.
Okay.
That's only written by Dave Sinclair, even though we were credited for it as well, because at the time we decided to share all our royalties. It's quite it was a good way to do it then, actually. Now it's all about, being in control and earning money, and, people don't then have to leave the band and things like that.
So there was no way you could have stayed in Camel? Is that what you meant? That it was a little bit difficult to work with the rest of the band?
With Camel or Caravan?
Yes, Camel.
Camel, I was asked to join, and I was asked to join as a session person. And as the first tour came up, they were so happy with me being about, they started to pay me as a band member then.
Okay.
I was paid on a retainer before it. To keep me about, so if I wanted to go touring and play that music that we'd all just recorded and sung for them, I mean, Rain Dances, as far as the singing goes, identified to my bass playing and singing very strongly, and so it was a good idea then to go touring with it, and really join the band for real.
That's when the live record came out. Of that tour?
And no, the live record came out later. The first record was Rain Dances.
Yeah. Yes.
And then off we went to play that. And for me, that was it was quite a magical meeting, because I hadn't ever heard Camel before, right?
Yes, yes.
It's like I'd never listened to Yes, or I'd never listened to Genesis. People say, "Well, don't let it." It's because I listen to the people that I play with, okay? And I've done that all my life and really focused on them and tried to make it develop as a sort of like, a major statement for our own ego, rather than sounding like anybody else. That's why I left Caravan, in fact, because I needed to move on with my study of the instrument and study of music. So it sounded like I was going for jazz, but it wasn't. I was still going for the rock and roll and the pop songs and all the rest of it. But I needed to have 24 hours a day playing music. Okay. And I moved up to Hatfield to do that. Now, so the Hatfield experience for me was an extreme one. Okay, that was 25 hours, like 8 days a week.
Yeah.
Oh, I need the music. 8 days a week. It was like that. And they were listening to some really great stuff. Come on, John McLaughlin and all that deal. For me, he was the number one progressive rock, rock player, not jazz, rock. Because I think we actually heard his second album when Hatfield was forming. And so when I went to Hatfield, that In a Mountain Flame, okay,
yes.
That's your first progressive rock music, right? Gang, 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 gong, gong, gang, gobbledy, gobbledy, gong. And so if that's not progressive rock, I don't know what is.
What else could be? Yes.
Well, the rest of it is all whimsical stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like Yes, Genesis, and you name them all, Song Vibe, Diddly Dee. I've only just started listening to them. I'm really enjoying listening to them now, because I never, when I first started, I thought, well, it didn't really entertain me, because I was listening to the people I was playing with that were both writing in Caravans, that both Pi and Dave. I mean, Pi got started writing. I was never going to write music, because I came from a father that sang all the best songs and the most popular music in the world, from Nat, and Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra. So I was never writing music.
And bands, if you allow me to say, Richard, bands like Yes and Genesis. Genesis is one of my favorite bands of all time. But then the music,
for many people.
Yeah, but the music the Canterbury bands made is like, it's a type of music that lifts you up. It's like very up, I don't know, optimistic in feeling.
Yeah,
it's like let back.
Well, the thing is, all those people. I mean, if you relate it to what is really the Canterbury deal, I mean, here we go. The first. It was written by the media, okay, but there are many Canterbury bands that were great, but they didn't hit the big time with the media, okay, or make records, which is a shame, really. And hang on, I've got company here. I don't know if you can see this. I always get this when I start to enjoy talking.
Oh, hello. Well,
always the family. They would like me rather than talking about it.
I also have a guest here on my legs. My cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like us to speak too much.
Sorry, let me answer your questions, because where were we? We're talking about was it difficult for me to stay in Camel? No, I found I had a lovely experience. It's the most professional to the most people was with Camel, because it had been really dedicated to the perfection of entertainment. So things had the spirit. You're all happening together, right? It was a very different experience from working with Hatfield in the North, where it was far more, the thing of entertaining was you being far more inventive. Whereas the inventivity with the chords and the things could only be slightly done, okay? Because Camel was very sorted. When I joined, there were bass parts like going gong, 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 gong. Okay. Now, I'd never done that in my life. Okay. I did it quite well on in a different way on Robert Wyatt's album Rock Bottom. Okay, because Robert was he was a person like me. Okay, well, like him or whatever way. He let people play what they played. Okay, he let them be them, rather than be totally controlled like in a band like Camel. And in Caravan, it's more open, but it's less dedicated to the, melodic structures and advancement of going strange, going psychedelic or pushing the boat out, as far as it will go. Pit Pie was a very good one at that. And also Robert's drumming, fantastic in Soft Machine when they began. Very, very good drummer, very good ideas. Whether he was technically brilliant didn't matter. The amount of information that went into Robert's drumming in Soft Machine, especially on the Soft Machine fourth album, he became a magic drummer. Very, very fantastic. It was so sad that he fell from a side of a building when he was a little bit too drunk.
Yeah,
it's such a shame that.
No, Richard.
But then Robert's a great singer and a great part of the thing, and also part of the Canterbury story, a very main part of it. But as I say to you, this Canterbury relationship, now everybody's doing it. Oh, Camel relate to Caravan, and Caravan relates to them, and Pie relates to Dilly Dee. I'm afraid I must be called a culprit of that, because not a culprit. I'm the one that's cross-referenced many people.
But there's something, if you allow me to say that, Dave's playing, he's absolutely unmistakable. You recognize what comes from Caravan, from the Canterbury scene.
Yeah.
I think he was the one who gave this
harmonic
identity. Yes.
Yeah, harmonics. It comes from Canterbury. Yes.
Yeah.
It's called the 12-note scale. It's called Perfectly in Tune, Perfectly in Time.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
No, there's
not even that good, I think. You know what I mean? But it is the tuning. I hear when I play guitar now, instead of like rock and roll, I tend to sort of do I sing it. This year it's the 50th anniversary of Land of Growing Pink. Okay, and so I sing a birthday to it, and it's a birthday to everybody basically. It's it's Growing Pink's 50th anniversary or 50th birthday. 50 laps of the sun it's done. And I've rewritten the Happy Birthday, the chords of it. Okay, the melody's still the same. So Happy Birthday to you, but the chords are Canterbury-esque. Okay, it's Happy Birthday to you, Happy Birthday to you, Happy Birthday, dear Land of Graham Pink. Happy birthday to you.
Hey, there you go. Great. Now, there's somebody else, Richard. There's somebody else that I used to play a lot. So there's somebody else I really admire a lot, and I played a lot his solo albums, and also Happy the Man. I'm talking about Mr. Kid Watkins. Yeah. What a talented composer.
One of my favorite Dream friends. He played. Kit is really a special person on planet Earth, isn't he?
He played on RSVP. Caravan of Dreams.
He played on RSVP. Yes, we sent. We didn't play together. I must get in contact with him now. You mentioned his name, because he is easily the most wonderful person to hear playing on your music.
Yeah.
His whole energy goes into that, and especially and the harmonics and things and all the rest of it at the 12-note scale. I was brought up on all that, and just to hear the magic that he plays, especially when you got there's one of the tunes on there which is a bit Mediterranean, right? It's a bit like. It's several religious callings all put together.
Oh no, the connection went out. Yeah, the connection is not very kind of weak.
Don't worry.
Yeah, it will eventually return.
We're still recording.
We are, but not the image.
Yeah. Don't know, but I mean, you mentioned Kit Watkins, and there you go. You know.
there you're back.
My
Now you're back.
favorite too. Hey, my favorite too. No, totally my favorite. And his Happy the Man albums and his own solo albums and things. I've not even heard them all, but I will do. I'll get to see. He's in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia in America, and so he played in Camel after I'd left. Oh no, after I'd left. Yeah.
Well, we made contact, Richard. We made contact back in the early '90s when Futuro FM was beginning, and then he was very kind to send me some of his albums, Azure, several albums, and then he also sent me some radio IDs.
Yeah. Did he ever come down to Chile?
No. He's never been here. I wish he could come, but I think that.
Listen. We get some things together because there's a couple of people I want to play with. One is Kit. Mm-hmm. And I reckon I can get to Chile, but I mean, I'm sure if we can get, I mean, I know there's not a lot of money for music and all the rest of it, but there are record companies there that have money, and also the promoters of the very big concerts. When you get Stones and things like that, they're also interested in other ventures, you know. So I mean, how you reach these people, I don't know, but I'm very happy to have them call me. You know, I've got many people now, small record companies, saying they want to bring out my music or a catalogue of music or whatever they want to do. That's many from all around the world now because of mainly Facebook, which I'm actually like totally humbled by, but I'm very happy about because I really want to just give all the record companies, you know, because everybody's saying, well, they'd like to hear a Richard Sinclair solo album and they'd also like to hear some of the other music from the past. So I've managed to do it with help reform Caravan in 1990. Is also on that. So it was really Dave and I that made Pie come on Pie. You'd stop for a bit, and because I knew that the actual original band would give it a kickstart, okay, because it was getting difficult then in the 80s for that type of music, okay.
Well,
and so. I'd left the band early because I wanted to be in Hatfield in the North, and I've never really recovered from Hatfield in the North, really, because that is total 24-hour dedication to the inventiveness that you can be on stage. So the music's not always the same stage.
It was you who suggested the reforming the band in 2005, wasn't it? You were involved in the reformation.
No, I'd actually had my own band, and yes, so that's what happened. I was in Portugal with Andy Ward. I'd managed to get him to come and play. They hadn't played for 2 years. He'd got a real problem with being on stage. You know, he'd got a problem with that, and so he'd moved out of the music business, and he hadn't played for some time. But I knew that he'd really like to play with his heroes, which one was Phil Miller, the guitarist.
Sure.
And I was already playing. I'd already had Pip's keyboard player because he had a band called Bash, and Alex Maguire was Pip's keyboard player after Hatfield in the North and National Health and all that, okay, with Elton Dean and other people as well from the Canterbury scene. And so Pip was doing quite well, but he wasn't playing with Phil then at all. And so I went to Portugal with Andy Ward and Alex Maguire, the new keyboard player of Hatfield in the North, Phil Miller, and myself, and also Theo Travis, who's now playing in Sock Machine. Okay, Theo was a friend of mine. We were doing duos then, and so I had my own band called RSVP, or sometimes it was called, Responde Civil Play. That's the second little solo album I brought out in '83. Okay, RSVP, Responde Civil Play. That's the name of the band. And the one before that was Richard Sinclair's Caravan of Dreams. Okay, and so they all, most of them played in that, including Pip, and Didier Melherb, and quite a few other people that not many people know about. So I was never out in the music business. I was just playing with, who I thought was the Canterbury scene.
Heather is on Caravan of Dreams. The track Heather that I played so much.
Heather is on Caravan of Dreams, and that's my new partner in life. I met, and I've also changed the name to Golf Girl because the Golf Girl was a tune written about my first partner in life called Pat,
Okay.
You know? And we sat under a tree and she kissed me, but I've changed the lyrics to Heather. In all sorts of weather, we are together.
Otherwise, you will get into trouble, huh? Wouldn't you?
Well, no, actually, I think there's no problem with. I mean, they've done it so many times. This record company that I can sing, you know, like the one I just sang, the birthday tune, and then into my song, you know, how it is played, how I wanted it to be played, not Caravan, or how I signed the music away as a Caravan, you know. So, you know, I think that's quite a good. I mean, they got the heaviest legal department in the world. It's called Universal now. It owns everything.
Yeah, they have everything.
The name is good, including all
swallowed everything, all the record labels. Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, some Chilean bands. Let me tell you a little story. Some Chilean bands, like the big, fantastic Congress, which is a fusion.
I want to hear these. I saw
they are amazing. Well, they had some very difficult times for them to allow them to use their own masters because they wanted to reissue Terra Incognita, their second album, on vinyl record, and then the company never did. So, but when the band went to them and asked them for the masters, they gave them lots of trouble. So it's amazing. It's absurd. The owners of the music.
No,
but
no chance. No. I mean, that's why you exist. When in the early days, later, yes, they've really got a good fight about that. But in the early days, in 1968, when we signed to Hugh Mendel, no, it wasn't. Hugh Mendel was Decca. When we signed, I think, I'm not sure who we signed with. It was done through a man called Ruffini. That was MGM, the Verve, and that stopped.
Yeah,
that stopped almost straight away, which is a shame because it had a lot of really nice, interesting acts. It was a bit like a label like Virgin when they had that alternative moment from about 72 to 75 with Gong and, you know, I mean, the best thing that came out of that was obviously Mike Oldfield.
Yeah.
Who also get included into the Canterbury scene because of Kevin Ayres. You see, Mike was in Kevin's band and all that. So you get all these very strange, you know. I
had the chance to once talk and interview one guy who played with Kevin Ayres and the whole world, Mr. Andy Summers. What a brilliant guitar player.
He's a friend. Isn't he a good man? Oh, and he's the best guitarist to me. He's really good.
Very good. Yeah. Now I want to mention three names for you, Richard. Maybe you can share with us some memories. Phil Miller, that I played a lot on Futuro FM, Alan Gowen, rest in peace, and Pete Bardens. You have any particular memories about those guys, especially Phil Miller and Alan Gowen?
I mean, especially Phil Miller, because when I joined the band and we formed a band before it was called Hatfield in the North, it was just Pip, Phil and I, okay. and Steve Miller. And it was really Steve Miller's delivery. And of course, it was only a shame. I mean, Phil was very dedicated to really, you know, pushing your imagination further out than the basic what was happening and all the rest of it, which was, it wasn't really about entertainment. It was about your own personal id wanting something really special. And he's unique. He writes the most amazing music. It was always a struggle for him to do that because he was always pushing in advance of his actual ability to be able to play it. It was amazing. He really did. It was a fantastic. His actual writing ability and thinking and unique on sometimes very simple things because of he knew quite a lot about the maths of music. Okay.
Yeah.
He taught himself to read and write it, especially when Dave Stewart joined the band. Okay. And but in those early days with Phil, Pip, and Steve and I, it was a very magical experience because Phil was he was out there, really out in advance of all of us trying to push it as far as he could go. I mean, he was always been a very, very close, he was like a brother. Phil and Pip were like brothers. They were born within 100 yards of each other, you know, in the same sort of moment. And so the whole of their lives, they had this musical thing going. And because Steve Miller, they're slightly older, so there was quite a team, you know. And actually, they spotted me rather than them, but you know, because of the family relations and things, and you know.
Did you ever play with Alan Gowen, Richard?
Yes, you bet. It's a very nice record that you should hunt out and hear. It's called Before a Word is Said.
Yeah, I remember the record. Yeah, I don't have it in my collection, but I remember it.
But I when I was in Hatfield in the north, Alan was just round the corner. I lived in South London, and Alan just lived just round the corner, and he was really a friend with Pip and Phil Miller because of the jazz in London then. I wasn't really ever in the jazz London situation, apart from when I joined Hatfield in the north, okay? I came from a choir boy, Canterbury-esque, you know, it's more, less, no jazz, not so much, you know, other than the very top of the bill as far as clarinet players. Here's a story for you. One of the best clarinet players in the world comes from Canterbury. He's called Tony Coe, and he's a master at the imagination of melodic content. He's very famous in Europe, okay? And he would have been famous in America, but Tony Coe would never fly in his life, and he was asked to play in the big orchestras then, the very famous orchestras, and he said, "I'm not." He didn't want to go on boat to do it. He stayed in England. You know, he never flew in his life. But no, Alan Gowan. Well, Phil Miller, a very special person for me, for my thinking about music and how to write music at the same time and be in the same room and just keep going at it, even though you don't play together, even though your mate you never put things together. You know, it's best to hear all the mistakes and ideas and extenders, because Phil wrote like I did. It wasn't till the end that you put it into a form that was set to go, you know. And so you be inventive with him. I used to spend hours and hours inventing and playing, and because I was a singer and he's not a singer, it was quite easy for me to do because I sing everything I play, you know, as I sing, as I play. So it's like I'm a singer rather than a guitarist and bass player, because that's what comes out my fingers is what I'm singing. But it's like, yeah, it changed my whole way of being about music.
Did you ever play with Barbara Gaskins? Richard, have you ever played with Barbara?
No, Barbara has always been a friend because she comes from Canterbury, and she used to have a boyfriend that was a folk singer called Martin Cockerham, and they had a band in Canterbury called Spyro Gyra. So, I mean, Barbara Gaskin I've known for a very long time, and her name's still I don't think Dave Stewart's married her, but so I got to know her quite a lot, you know, and especially in the mid-70s after Hatfield and the North.
Sure. Were you ever invited to play at first with National Field at the beginning when the band formed? Yes.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, I'd left. I'd given up on that lack of money and struggle it was to actually travel and things, and also it was very hard to get an urge that they were so prolific writers, very strong, David especially, and really for me the band should have had more freedom in it. I don't like technically orientated, completely tied down music, or not so technically tied like Camel, when it's tied down. For me, it's you know, I've got that Gemini character. You know, I'm able to hear them all and have a conversation with someone else at the same time. You know, so it's like I really like the jazz approach where people are, you know, but on nursery rhymes for adults. Okay, as my father said, if you want to be successful, Richard, write nursery rhymes for adults.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. Okay. They seem to be jazzy, but I've always had that. I'm desperate to come to Chile and Brazil and Argentina. I really am, because the people I've been talking to on Facebook, I mean, that's in me. This Latin deal. I've always played, you know, and it's just like it's got the rhythms of Latin. You know, it's like, you know.
What?
You know.
Well, you have such a huge universe of music in Brazil. It's really jaw-dropping. It's amazing.
I can't wait to be there, and also in Chile too, because I like the ethnic approach. I mean, you've got rock bands there too, great, but they must, if you take on the cultures that are already there, especially if you put it, I mean, Peter Gabriel did it with his world, but when it's there anyway, like John McLaughlin playing with I mean, that's spectacular what he does
Yeah.
and what they do. It introduces you to this whole magic realm of Indian music and rhythm, and
he's been here a couple of times with the Free Spirits band back in the early 90s. I was playing a lot of John McLaughlin at the station, and then Aldi Meola as well. Aldi Meola is an amazing, to me, guitar player. He's also been here.
Aren't they wonderful people? Yeah, very nice music.
Yeah.
I've always listened to. I mean, I listened a lot to. I listen a lot to the singers. Joni Mitchell is my favorite.
Yes, absolutely
of that
fantastic.
period of time.
Yes.
And the best band for me, obviously, was. I mean, Jaco Pastorius bass playing is just like, for me, that's creme de luxe.
Sure.
Joni Mitchell and Jaco playing bass. I mean, if that's not raised the bar for us all, I don't know what.
They set the standards.
When the mates are chosen to play that, beautiful music, isn't it? It's really nice stories and beautiful music, and lovely voice. From folk to jazz, you know, and then you've got Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays and Don Elias, and then cherry on the top is Mr. Brecker, you know, Michael Brecker, and Jaco Pastorius. It's just unbelievable, wonderful. I'd invite anybody talking about my bass playing, saying, "Hey, my goal is beyond," a bit like John McLaughlin's. Okay, check out Jaco when he's playing with someone that sings. You know, okay, he's a master melodic technician. But probably, you know, I mean, they say he's the Hendrix of the bass, but I mean, I think he's amazing. I mean, his soul bass player, and he plays from his soul totally. You know, it's really good. It's a pity he doesn't sing, eh? Yeah. What a shame.
Could have been incredible. Yeah, could have been incredible.
Oh, what a thing, you know.
Who have been your best pals? Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
No, I'm entertained by the
fact
that's
that okay.
You same type of music, but no, you must ask me questions. Excuse me.
Who have been your best pals in your music journey so far? Your best pals, like really you feel comfortable playing with?
Oh, all of them. No, all of them. When we were getting on and playing music, they were my best pals. That's why I was there. You know, that's why I didn't listen to anybody else's music. They were all best pals. You know, Wilde Flowers, and when you get fed up with the noise they're making, you just move on. You know, you don't destroy that friendship if you can help it. You know, I mean, it destroys, obviously, because they're really disappointed that, you know, for whatever reason you've left. It's not the way they want to do the music, is it? You know, and that's why you've left, because you want to move on and find, you know, some new experience and all the rest of it. And so, no, everybody I played with, they're all friends all the way through. I don't know one person I've played with that I'd call. They're certainly not enemies, you know.
Yeah, no, you always get something from everyone you meet, right?
Oh goodness, I've been lucky. Listen to who I've played with. They're all writers, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're all very, very good writers too. They're not, you know. And they're rather unknown because that writing doesn't exist too much in the media pop world, does it? You know? So there's always balance, you know. There's all this balance to try and get some in there, you know, in some way.
Yeah. You were the other day we were chatting before this interview, Richard, and you were. I think that I got something that you were expressing. You seem to dislike some aspects of playing live, like sound, loud sound.
All the way. Yeah. Well, now I'm 73. Okay. Now, and playing on mass, you need large equipment, unless it's done at very high level of technical experience and carefulness with the type of music which is very harmonically dense that you play. Caravan, Hatfield in the North, and Camel, for me, have always suffered that because the more noise there is and the more air is pushed out in the volume, there's less chance to be inventive and experiment with the music, which is where I like to be, right? A bit like jazz, but playing nursery rhymes for adults, okay? That people, they can get off on it because it's got a good melody, it's got some maybe interesting words, but it's not so important. The main thing is the actual momentum of it, of the type of dance that you can do to this music. And for me, all the Caravan music, all the Camel, all the Hatfield music has got a particular dance to it. You can't call it soul music. You can't call it punk music. You can't call it rock music. You can't call it this. You can't call it that. It's melodic music that has a dance to it. You know, that, especially Soft Machine in the early days. You know, which did play dance music. So did Caravan, really. But we rather push the boat out past the 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You know, it's like occasionally you'd be going, oop, which at the time people, then the girls got into it, right, and then the boys were able to dance it. But it's quite funny because you have to base thing all, you know, if you want dance music and things like that, you've got to put it back to. It's done by the rock and roll people doing this, you know. So everybody's got the simple pulse, okay. Then all this conversation, which is the music, whatever it goes, you know. But if you were to start singing up time to that or elaborately, I mean, you'd lose the plot for being major entertainment en masse, because people are so indoctrinated to the media system of radio and stuff like. Always in my time too, you know. I mean, it even gets boring for me especially in the 80s, when everything that came out of the radio was the Police, and I liked it, but to hear it over and over and over and over again the same way, you know, and in the end it becomes like a joke, doesn't it? You know, walking on the moon.
But they were good though. They were good. Yeah,
your legs don't break.
But they became so big with time, you know.
Great melodies, great singing, wonderful guitar playing, fantastic drumming, really the
Absolutely,
best,
yes.
isn't it?
Stuart,
just number one, really is.
Now, are you familiar with newer bands, Richard, that inherited the Canterbury sound? I'm not sure if you know bands like. There's one. There's one. No.
Yeah. When you say they've inherited the. Yeah, okay. I work with people and they get because I'm in the band, it gets related to them. And yes, their sounds. They listening to Soft Machine and Caravan, especially. This is from Italy, okay. It also comes from. I play with many bands that know my Canterbury music. I go to Norway, and Panzer Papa is a band there. Tron Gellum is the Gellum is the drummer. I mean, I'm in touch with all these people. There's quite a few. There's tens of bands around the world. And so when you say, am I in touch with them? They asked me to go and play with them. And I have a really wonderful experience, especially in Japan. Very nice bands in Japan.
Japanese bands? Obviously.
Japanese bands and Japanese bands that play Camel. Okay. Japanese bands that play Caravan. Oh, yeah. And play it very well indeed. I have when I went there on my first solo visits were in 2002, I think it was. And I went there for 3 weeks, which is really unusual because usually you fly there and fly back. But I was invited by people that were really good friends and quite high places. One was in Sony. Hello, yes.
Yeah, hi, Richard. Beta here.
Me out. Me.
Right.
No, I play with a lot of bands that play, especially Caravan, end of Caravan music. You know, Waterloo Lily, which I never expected to play any of that stuff again. There's a band called Accordo del Contrare here in Italy, ADC.
You play with Prophecy, something like it?
And another band called Prophecy. One's called ADC, Accordo del Contrare. Okay. They're very, very familiar to Dave Sinclair. He's actually got an organ that is an A100, Hammond A100. He just bought it. But they were the band that said, come on, I'd never sung Waterloo Lily after I'd left. You know, I mean, I think you might hear it on, I don't think you even hear it on the Swiss concert, Montreux on the box set. I don't know. I've not even looked through that box set yet. I have no idea what's on it.
No, tell me.
I wrote a little story, yeah.
You have a little story? Go ahead, please. You have a little story?
No, we were talking about bands of...
yeah. No,
the the Canterbury scene. I think that there's many, and they all play really good, and a lot of them play their own music very well indeed. But it's a struggle for them in all the countries, as you know, because the things that are at the top of the media system, like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Rolling Stone, and not so much the Rolling Stones, but more Led Zeppelin and Hendrix, and especially David Gilmour. A lot of people, and a lot of young guitarists that are totally dedicate their whole deal to David.
Yeah. Now I just wrote on the chat a very nice band that I would play on the radio station called Radio Peace 3 that I think have a real Canterbury-esque sound to them. It's really nice. Yeah. I'm going to send you some links later. Now about Richard Sinclair. When and why did you move to Italy? When did you make up your mind to go there?
Oh, well, I'd been in Holland before then.
Yes.
I've always been moving out of England, coming back to it, obviously, as a base, because it's my family base. But I moved to southern Germany and did some music in Freiburg for a bit. Took my new partner in life down there. We played at, and we worked at the really big Zelt Festival. I mean, but when did I decide to move? I came to Italy for the first time in my life, and we were invited to come and play to Perugia after they found out that I'd reformed the band. Okay, they really wanted to hear the first band, Caravan, and so we were booked into a concert in Rockinumbra in Perugia. And I'd never been to Italy in my life. I'd only seen pictures on my stamp collection. Okay,
yeah, you collect stamps, huh?
Yeah, you bet. From all around the world, love it. Yeah, I had Chile too, Argentina, yeah, Brazil, and
sure.
yeah, I didn't have any from Peru.
I will send you some. You know, these days very few
well,
people.
I don't collect stamps now. I don't collect stamps.
Okay.
Now, but I'm interested in the music.
No, I was just going to say that very few people go to the Central Post Office, which is an amazing building in the center of Santiago, and they used to sell special stamps, special collector stamps. So if you're not collecting, I forget about that then.
yeah.
No,
I collected them. Obviously, they went to the children and things like that because it's very early days. But my mother, Eileen Sinclair, she was working in Threadneedle Street, which was before I was born. This is she worked as secretary, so she could shorthand type, and she was amazing. That's where all my writing comes from, really. My experience to write. I never read in my life. I've only listened to people. Maybe
Richard, you remember there's a very nice musician, a very talented musician that I've been talking to lately, and he had a nice, interesting band called Sensations Fixed, Franco Falsini. Are you familiar with him?
Really? No, I don't. No,
it's really good. It's really good. And the record, the Sensations Fixed, I think it was an underrated band. And he's from Italy now. He's been making music. He's moved to the more like space type of, groovy type of thing, maybe more commercial, but he's very talented. Franco Falsini. Yeah,
good.
And now, what have you been up to these last 2 years? They've been 2 difficult years, haven't they?
The 2 years, well, I'm lucky because, where I live is away from people. It's only 6 kilometers from the main town, which is called the Pearl of Puglia, on the ankle of the heel of the boot, and I'm right down south. And as I said, the story comes from doing that concert in Perugia. A lot of people, 800 people came to this concert, and I met 100 people maybe that came from this area in 1990, and I was just amazed that they'd followed all the music, because it's very hard. In Italy it had its own progressive
scene,
sort of vanguard thing, which is really a bit more like a watered down version of Genesis, or a watered down version of Soft Machine, or it was much lighter. It wasn't so, and it's amazing because you'd think it would be passionate here, right? But it was almost like a copy of Ideas. Sounded exactly the same when you watered down. I didn't get to know any Italian music apart from my sister, who was 9 years older than me. Used to Mario Lanza, the number one singer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, right. And it's fantastic. I can remember drink, 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 two wise and a wise, and really good, but really strong voice, like like we have like Tom Jones and all those people are really on the case, a rock operatic. I've never managed to do that myself. It's probably why I still sound the same.
Mario Lanza is on the Great Caruso, right? The famous movie.
Yeah.
Yes, what an amazing movie. I could see it as a child.
Yeah.
Now I want to show you something that you may want to talk to us a little bit about. I was amazed to see these houses.
Okay.
Trullo, I think is the name. Houses. You have something like this with this.
Well, that's Elbrabello. I recognise that. That's the famous one here. The town is all like that. That's a town of Trulies. It's called Elbrabello.
Yeah.
Trees that are beautiful. Yes, Elbrabello.
But yesterday or the day before yesterday, you showed me your place where you're living now, and there's something like that, like these towers. What are those?
Yeah. Do you want me to walk up and show you?
Why not? Yeah, because
behind me, look.
Yeah, sure.
You can see them behind me.
Ah, there they are. Yeah.
Okay. And the building is about 1 meter thick. Okay. It's made of stones, and they're placed together in a way that they do a spiral, and as the water falls on the cone, it gets directed to an inside tank, which is called a cisterna, and you collect the rainwater for the water.
Well, we have the word in Spanish, cisterna is the word, cisterna.
Cisterna, yeah, same thing. Well, I mean, in England, it's called a water tank, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, you get a well, but that's the hole in the ground that goes into the natural water. But it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
But you haven't had much rain, haven't you? You said you were.
We've had a lot of rain just yesterday for about 20 minutes. A lot of water fell. There has been lots of rainfall all the way through Europe. It's been very strange, as you heard from Tim Blake. He was talking about the weather. In fact, it's been much better here because we've had the weather in southern Italy, especially in Puglia, is fantastic. I think we have 12 hours a day focused on the land and on the sea. Okay, and this year it was extreme. We had 3 months of extremely hot weather, hotter than normal.
Yeah.
Too soon. But everything's grown. He was saying about fruits and things on it. I mean, I've got a lot of trees here. Mine is like, I mean, these Trulies were little farmhouses. Okay, they were little farmhouses that the people were allowed to build for the Duke or whoever it was that owned the land, the king. They could live here for free and build their own houses, and then they supplied the owners with fruit, veg, food, meat, everything. So I'm surrounded. So I'm surrounded here in the nature, and so Trulies are fantastic, and I've not had such a problem that you've all had being stuck in your houses, not being able to go for a walk. I mean, I actually chose it so I could be away from people, just for the tranquility of not hearing noises and things. Okay, I get the odd plane here, and we have the odd farm vehicle and noises of the cattle very in the distance. So it's all. I don't live in the nature, but I live in a sort of
tranquil space.
Bang on it, where the forests are, where the woods are, and here the nature is very diverse. I mean, you get pine trees and palm trees growing together. It's fantastic. I mean, Kent in England, Canterbury, where I came from, very beautiful, but here there's a huge amount of energy from the sun, and so we really do get good nuts, good fruit. I mean, when I moved into this land, it had 300 cherry trees on it, of the black cherries, Ferrovia, it's called here, and we got nut trees and cactus fruits and figs and everything. It's amazing. And it was a good year. It was a good year here, right? I don't know what happened in land. Europe has had hell. It's had floods. It's had ice balls falling, and just amazing. Very, very bad news.
But
And America too. I don't know how you got it. I think the weather changed quite heavily in
yeah,
Europe.
yeah, it seems severe. We're having a drought of no rain almost.
Drought.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, for years. Yeah, it's really sad to see the animals dying.
A drought.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. By the way, I can only see the tent. I see the green tent. I can't hardly see your face anymore.
Oh, sorry. I forget. Let me
It's
stand
okay.
up. I'm getting
No, well, yeah. I just wanted to ask you, Richard, how does a normal day go to you? How do you spend your time? What do you like doing apart from, walking around, enjoying your dogs, the animals, the country?
Most of the time I'm working. If I'm not on the phone like this, since Facebook started, I mean, there's now 3,000, 3,500. I mean, it's just every day there's about 50 people that, the musicians from all around the world. They see them on the thing. A lot of them are friends I've known. I mean, I know people that come up to me from 1969 when we did concerts in London, and they come up and they go and look at me, and I say, do I remember them? I said, well, yeah, because I spoke to a lot of people at concerts, right? I was never one to be in the background.
Okay.
I was always out in the audience saying hello and, what are you listening to? So I could get it right, finding out who'd come to see us. And so it was amazing because they tell me my life history. It's just amazing. They said, do I remember them in 1969? And I go, well, yeah, I recognize your form. You're wider. But I said, tell me. Then I'll know. And then they say, oh, do you remember at the Roundhouse, you invited me to go backstage and have a drink and have a smoke, and then the band being horrified by it, and they're putting their trousers on and things like that. I was very much sort of not a star attraction, but no, amazing. And then I hear the stories, and then many people that phone me up, it's their children. The generation below me, the 10 years below me, they've had children, and there they are. The grandchildren are singing me Winter Wine and Godfell. I think, okay, better write some new ones now.
Yeah, it's really amazing. It's really amazing how the younger generations are going back to those days, huh? They're really exploring.
Especially the fact that came out and listened to this type of music, because there was a lot of us, right? And so this business about, there's far more people on the, especially media, for the media thing, the young folks now and things like that, and they're all totally indoctrinated for not doing it themselves. You just press buttons now.
Yeah.
For everything, art, music, photography, there's no real touch from the human touch. It's like, I know that's what I think about this digital sound too.
Yeah.
That can be, and it's all pasted over. It's all blur because it's carefully recorded and tidied and made in tune.
Yeah, it's formatted. It's formatted to to be successful on radio, if there's radio anymore.
Yeah. I prefer just to come out in nature and make one track, me singing with the birds in the background, and say, there we are. Try this. This is where I live. This is what music and everything sounds beautifully like. Not coming through a PA system that's not got any middle register in it because it's going boom, cack. We all know that you're in for a problem at these places that are emulating, Pink Floyd concerts, and there's only like about 150 people there playing this volume, and then there's a snare drummer going cat, cat, cat. You think, no, thank you. Can you just turn the PA off? Thanks. There's no, when you come up to play a really nice big chord with all the harmonic of strange dissonances and things like that, it just doesn't exist through PA systems because it's not actually in the mix of it. It's like, oh God.
Yeah. Well, you really have a critical view of that, and it's really interesting to see. I really agree with you that sometimes you can't enjoy the live music.
No, yes. I mean, yeah, when the PA is good and stuff like that, or
everything.
The kids are playing at a really good volume.
You're gonna get.
It's my phone's running out of battery now, so we've got to talk to each other.
Yeah, well, Richard, what to say? I hope this is not the last time we have this type of
meeting. Do it. Hey, you should do it once a week, and I can tell you a story.
Sure.
Much better than the stories about me.
Wow.
The people I've actually met, that's just fantastic. All those musicians, you think of them all, and I know you're a fan of a lot of them, but I was very lucky to cross-reference that and be asked to do stuff with these people. I still,
Well,
everybody that phones me up. One thing you can announce for me soon is once I find a way where it's easy for people to pay money to join my music club. I've started a music club which started in 2014, but I lost all my equipment then. Everything broke, everything failed. And so they're still there, the promise of making new music. But it's about this. Everybody that pays 50 euros into the music club can do this, exactly what you're doing. Okay. I love to talk to people that support my music, and they do it for nice reasons, very kind reasons. They say, well, we've enjoyed you in your music through early days. I'm now 65 years old and I'm getting it from young record people now that want to help me distribute music in Japan or in Argentina and things. And I'm thinking, well, the best way to do it is not to hope that I'm going to find a record company that wants to give me money, because no one wants to give you money now. Okay, they want it for free, even the record company, so they can make money and they can employ themselves. It's the way of our capitalistic system, and that's it, the way of the media. And so the best way to do it is, I thought, because I do this as much as I can, when I get a computer, I should be doing it nearly all day long, because as you saw, as I'm talking to you doing a radio thing, I've always got a guitar somewhere nearby.
yes.
So I can explain to someone, yes, this is how I met them, and this is what we played on the first day. And I've got this massive library of my recording stuff.
That's
that
lucky.
I did.
Very good.
Because I did it from my own amp on stage in Hatfield days, and then after then, and when I'm playing with new people and stuff like that. And when we play together and made a performance, someone else has taped it more recently, but usually I did it. And so I've got this where I can listen back. I used to listen back to the tapes and things like that, so I could perfect the next performance. I could always, and then in the end, you get like a photographic memory of sound and places and things if you do that all the time, because that's what I've done as a study of music all the way through my life. So I can, just recently I've done less studying and enjoying listening to nature and playing with it. Okay?
That's healthy.
Rather than other people's music, like I did in Caravan.
What format are you? What format have you used to store the music, Richard?
In my head, or I send it to people as 1-minute bursts when I'm talking to them about music and saying, well, look, this is what I do, especially the musicians and things that I play with, whether they're professional or not. And so they get the idea of the music and things like that, and then they feel comfortable to play me their music. I'm in touch with a lot of very fine young musicians now in their 20s, playing their own music and writing their own things that have been, they're obviously, they've listened and what's the word? I forget the word now, but they've taken the ideas and sounds and things and worked it like we all do. If you want to play Pat Metheny music or Jaco Pastorius, you study it and play it. That's what you do. But if you don't read, if you by ear, you're more likely to find your own way of doing stuff and bits and pieces. And so I've started a music club, and for £50, €50, or $50 or whatever it is, I just have to find a way that it's easy for those people to send money. I have a PayPal account, but apparently it's not so easy from Japan and not so easy from Durham. And so I'm waiting now. But I love doing this, and especially listening to the other person, the other end. Like for you, it's your ideas and what you like. That's where all my inspiration comes from. As far as if I, like I say to you, I never really listened to Genesis. I never really listened to Yes or whatever. Names I can't think of that people say I should have played with them. I get that a lot from everybody, and so I'm able to listen to it because someone said, "Oh, haven't you heard this?" And so I do, and then I listen to it, and then you can
listen
and learn it.
I'm going to try to send you some music from here. I think you should get to know like Congreso, Los Jaivas. You probably heard of them. A very important band. But I'd like to finish now. Well, thank you so much for your time, your generous time.
Always. I'll probably be more focused just if I don't. Not thinking about a history of me, but if you ask me questions and then this is like a practice for me. Get it right, So you get the information concise, a lot of it, and a lot of new ideas, and what's really happened in the scene of Caravan and Camel and things like that. I think I'm the best person to tell you, because it's me that's actually cross-referenced everybody and got everybody to play that music again, right? Like the Northern Caravan and things. And so it's quite an endeavor, all that. It's a lot of very careful study of people's emotions and feelings about how they feel now as you go through, and you choose different ways through life, musicians, unless you're set and happy and it's making enough money so you can have time off and do stuff away from that people that you're stuck with for 3 or 4 or 5 months of the year. It's like, wow.
Now, let me tell you, I'm just looking at a guitar behind you. Is there any chance that you play a few chords for us to close this conversation with? Yeah, just a few, a couple.
Hey, look, this is thing. Everybody can play too many chords.
Let's close the conversation with something, wow.
Let's see if it's going to work. Oh, there we go. You got the back. You should have the backdrop of.
I will walk it out later.
Oh, this one's singing. Look, are you going to sing then for us? Started to sing.
Yeah. Wow.
Really heard it. Really going to sing. Okay. Do Moses. Do 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 do. Do 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 words I've got to write. Oh, where does love go? When times have been low, does it always hide in yesterday's dreams? Colors in the dark. Well, I'm searching through my memories, and now on radio, where to do there's some new ideas, need some lyrics, join the club and it I'm being attacked by a dog.
Wow.
Are you going to sing as well? Come on and sing.
Yeah. What's his name?
And this is Dina.
Dina, right?
Dina. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, but her name comes from when she was very, very young, and she was always escaping. And I decided that I'd got to call her Houdina. Houdini, sorry, Houdina.
Now she's a sound assistant, the sound assistant engineer. Well,
yeah, well, I don't know about assistant. I think she's the job. And this is the assistant.
Well,
come and say hello.
Hello, guys.
This is Bianca. Okay.
But
used to call her Bianca Jagger. Dina. And that is
no,
as in Mr. Pastorius.
Yeah, look at them, playful guys. Well, I'm glad that you have this happy life surrounded by nature and peace of mind.
But you said, what do I do all day long? When I get to sit down and talk to you, I get to see my dogs. The rest of the time, I'm building, chopping, making. Sometimes I use chainsaw, sometimes I use chisels, sometimes and everybody's going, oh, you must be careful,
Yeah, with your hands. Yes, okay.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard. You've been so generous and friendly. So that's something very meaningful and important.
Yeah. I look forward to the next time too. Look forward to it.
I will send you this video for your files, and then I have to ask you a couple of questions before we hang out. Okay. So thanks a lot. Stay well, stay safe, and play on, please.
Okay.
Thank you for the time.
Yoo-hoo!
Bye bye.